For generations, the promise of retirement has been a cornerstone of the American dream, decades of work, followed by a comfortable, secure golden age. Yet, for Gen Z, this vision appears increasingly distant, a luxury perhaps reserved for a bygone era. Recent economic analyses suggest a confluence of factors is actively reshaping their financial trajectory, posing significant obstacles to wealth accumulation and traditional retirement. Our investigation begins by examining the fundamental shifts in economic reality that Gen Z inherited, contrasting their starting line with those who came before them. Studies consistently indicate that Gen Z entered the workforce amidst a unique economic storm. Unlike previous generations who benefited from periods of sustained growth and lower cost bases, today's young adults face an environment marked by persistent inflation and stagnant real wage growth. This disparity in economic conditions from the outset means Gen Z starts their financial journey with less purchasing power and greater hurdles, directly impacting their ability to save and invest for the future. The foundational premise of wealth building has been fundamentally altered. One of the most immediate and debilitating challenges facing Gen Z is the astronomical rise in student loan debt. Unlike baby boomers, who often funded their education with summer jobs or modest loans, Gen Z often shoulders five-figure debts before their careers even begin. Data from the Federal Reserve indicates that average student loan balances have surged by over 150% in real terms since the early 2000s. This massive financial overhang significantly delays other key financial milestones, diverting capital that could otherwise be allocated to savings or investments. The weight of student debt, coupled with soaring housing costs, has made homeownership a distant dream for many in Gen Z. For previous generations, owning a home was often the primary vehicle for wealth accumulation, a tangible asset appreciating over time. However, recent analyses show that the average age of first-time homebuyers has increased significantly, pushing well into their 30s for Gen Z. This delay means they miss out on crucial early career equity gains, diminishing their long-term financial stability and intergenerational wealth transfer opportunities. A critical disjuncture defines Gen Z's economic reality, the relentless climb of essential living costs far outstripping wage growth. While a comfortable entry-level salary might have covered rent, utilities, and discretionary spending in previous decades, today's equivalent income struggles to cover even basic necessities in many urban centers. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics indicates that while average wages have seen modest increases, housing, healthcare, and education costs have surged disproportionately, squeezing disposable income and making saving a Herculean task for many. Consider the stark contrast in savings potential. A baby boomer entering the workforce in the 1970s faced a far different economic landscape. Housing was affordable, education costs were minimal, and stable employment with benefits was common. They could save a significant portion of their income. Gen Z, however, often finds their entire paycheck consumed by rent, student loan payments, and basic living expenses. This leaves little, if any, surplus for retirement savings, creating a foundational disadvantage that compounds over decades. The rise of the gig economy, often celebrated for its flexibility, presents a double-edged sword for Gen Z's financial future. While it offers immediate income, a significant portion of gig work lacks traditional benefits like employer-sponsored retirement plans, health insurance, or paid leave. A 2022 Pew Research Center study revealed that a substantial percentage of gig workers reported inconsistent income, making long-term financial planning and consistent retirement contributions exceptionally challenging. This precarious employment model often prioritizes short-term income over long-term security. A critical element missing for Gen Z is the traditional defined benefit pension plan, once a staple of stable employment. These plans, common for older generations, guaranteed a steady income stream in retirement. Today, pensions are largely replaced by defined contribution plans like 401(k)(s), which shift the responsibility and risk entirely onto the individual. This transition means Gen Z must not only save diligently but also possess the financial literacy and investment acumen to manage their own retirement portfolios effectively, a significant burden for young professionals. Even with 401(k)s, Gen Z faces unique obstacles. Many young workers, burdened by immediate expenses, are unable to contribute the maximum, or even enough to receive employer-matching contributions, if offered. Furthermore, the volatility of the market means their early contributions are subject to significant fluctuations, potentially eroding initial gains. Without robust employer contributions or the benefit of decades of compounding interest from an early start, the efficacy of 401(k)s as a sole retirement vehicle becomes highly questionable for this generation. Economic analyses consistently show that the wealth gap is widening, leaving Gen Z with fewer opportunities to accumulate assets compared to their predecessors. Inherited wealth, often a significant factor in financial security, is unevenly distributed, further exacerbating disparities. Those without family assistance to cover education or down payments on homes are at a profound disadvantage. This structural inequality means that even with hard work, the climb to financial stability is steeper and fraught with more obstacles for the majority of Gen Z. The chronic stress stemming from financial insecurity profoundly impacts Gen Z's mental health. A recent study by the American Psychological Association found that financial concerns are a leading cause of stress for young adults. This stress can lead to decreased productivity, impaired decision-making, and even physical health issues, creating a vicious cycle where financial worries undermine the capacity to improve one's financial situation. The invisible toll of economic anxiety cannot be overstated when assessing their long-term prospects. The traditional retirement age of 65 is becoming an increasingly unrealistic target for Gen Z. With longer life expectancies and insufficient savings, many will simply be unable to afford to stop working at that age. Economic projections suggest that a significant portion of Gen Z may need to work well into their 70s, or even beyond, to achieve even a modest level of financial security. This isn't just about preference. For many, it will be a necessity, fundamentally altering the concept of a golden age. Beyond daily expenses and housing, the trajectory of healthcare costs presents another significant threat to Gen Z's financial security in retirement. As they age, medical expenses will inevitably rise, but without robust employer-provided benefits or adequate personal savings, these costs could quickly deplete any accumulated wealth. Analysts project continued escalation in healthcare inflation, meaning Gen Z will likely face higher out-of-pocket costs and greater financial strain in their later years than previous generations experienced. Adding to the uncertainty, the long-term solvency of Social Security is a persistent concern. While the system is not projected to collapse entirely, current analyses by the Social Security Administration indicate that without legislative changes, benefits for future retirees, including Gen Z, may need to be reduced. This uncertainty means Gen Z cannot rely on Social Security as heavily as their grandparents did, placing even greater emphasis on individual savings and investment, which, as we've seen, are already under immense pressure. The initial years of a career are crucial for leveraging compound interest in investments. For Gen Z, however, these years are often consumed by aggressively paying down student loans or simply surviving. This debt-first imperative means capital that could have been invested in growth assets is instead used to service liabilities. Economists estimate that missing even 5 to 10 years of early investment can significantly reduce total retirement wealth, illustrating a direct trade-off between immediate debt repayment and long-term financial growth. The current housing market is a formidable barrier. Driven by low interest rates, limited supply, and institutional investors, home prices have surged far beyond wage growth. A typical starter home now costs significantly more as a multiple of average income than it did for previous generations. This prevents Gen Z from building equity, a traditional means of wealth creation, and traps many in rental cycles where they accumulate no assets, further widening the gap between homeowners and renters, and impacting retirement security. Despite growing up in the digital age, many in Gen Z report low levels of financial literacy. Surveys consistently show gaps in understanding fundamental concepts like compound interest, inflation, and investment diversification. This lack of knowledge makes navigating complex financial products and making informed long-term decisions incredibly difficult. Without adequate financial education, Gen Z is more susceptible to financial pitfalls, inefficient saving strategies, and missing out on crucial wealth-building opportunities, exacerbating their already challenging circumstances. Social media, while connecting Gen Z, also fuels a culture of aspirational consumerism. The constant barrage of curated lifestyles and trending products can create pressure to spend, even when financially ill-advised. Influencer culture often normalizes luxury consumption, making it harder for young people to prioritize saving over spending. This digital-driven consumerism can erode savings, promote instant gratification over delayed gratification, and divert funds from long-term financial goals like retirement, creating a silent drain on their wealth. The financial pressures on Gen Z extend beyond student loans. Many are accumulating credit card debt at earlier ages, often to cover essential living expenses or mitigate income inconsistencies from gig work. Data reveals a concerning trend of increasing credit card balances among young adults. This high-interest debt further constrains their ability to save, creating a cycle of debt repayment that hinders wealth accumulation. The convenience of credit often masks its long-term cost, especially for those already struggling financially. The core economic challenge for Gen Z is the persistent disconnect between wage growth and inflation. While nominal wages might tick up, the real purchasing power often declines due to rising costs for housing, food, and energy. Over the past 2 decades, inflation has outpaced wage growth for many entry-level and mid-career positions, effectively eroding savings and making it harder to get ahead. This isn't just a perception, it's a measurable economic reality that profoundly impacts their ability to save and invest. Many Gen Z individuals, disillusioned with traditional employment, are turning to entrepreneurship or freelance work. While this offers autonomy, it also comes with significant financial risks. The vast majority of startups fail, and self-employment rarely offers the same benefits as a corporate job, such as employer-matched retirement contributions. This path, while potentially lucrative for a few, means that for the many, it introduces greater income instability and often delays consistent, structured retirement savings, exacerbating their long-term financial vulnerability. Unlike previous generations who might have relied on a stronger social safety net or family support, many Gen Z individuals face financial challenges with fewer buffers. Government assistance programs have seen cuts, and economic strain on older generations means family support might not be as readily available. This absence of robust safety nets means that any unexpected financial shock, a medical emergency, job loss, or car repair, can derail an already precarious financial plan, making recovery significantly harder and setting back retirement goals by years. Gen Z has come of age in an era of unprecedented global economic volatility. From recessions and pandemics to geopolitical instability and supply chain disruptions, the economic landscape is constantly shifting. This volatility creates uncertainty for investment returns, job security, and long-term financial planning. Unlike generations that experienced relatively stable growth periods, Gen Z must navigate a continuous series of economic shocks, making it challenging to build and sustain wealth over time, particularly for risk-averse young investors. The very definition of retirement has evolved dramatically. For their grandparents, retirement often meant a secure pension, a paid-off home, and leisure. For Gen Z, that traditional model is largely aspirational. Retirement today is more likely to involve continued part-time work, financial dependence on family, or simply a lower standard of living in later years. This isn't just a shift in preference, it's a forced reevaluation driven by economic realities that make the golden year scenario increasingly improbable for many. Data indicates a significant disparity in savings rates between Gen Z and previous generations at comparable life stages. While millennials and Gen X were already saving for retirement and other goals in their 20s, many in Gen Z are still struggling to build an emergency fund, let alone substantial long-term investments. This lower starting savings rate means they miss out on critical years of compound growth, making it exponentially harder to catch up later in life when other financial responsibilities typically increase. Even for those Gen Z individuals who manage to save, persistent inflation erodes the real value of their money. A dollar saved today buys less tomorrow, meaning their accumulated wealth needs to grow at a rate significantly higher than inflation just to maintain its purchasing power. This adds another layer of complexity to financial planning. Merely saving isn't enough, they must invest wisely to outpace inflation, a task made harder by low financial literacy and market volatility. Unlike some earlier generations who could rely on financially secure parents for a safety net or assistance with major life events, many Gen Z parents themselves are facing financial strain. Delayed retirements, inadequate savings, and the lingering effects of past economic downturns mean that fewer parents are in a position to offer substantial support. This leaves Gen Z to navigate their challenges more independently, without the familial financial buffer that once mitigated some of the economic pressures for young adults. A unique psychological and financial burden for Gen Z is climate change anxiety. Surveys indicate that a significant portion of young people feel profound concern about the planet's future, impacting their long-term planning and investment decisions. This anxiety can manifest as a reluctance to save for a future they perceive as uncertain or to invest in traditional industries they view as unsustainable. While not directly financial, this pervasive sense of doom can indirectly undermine the motivation and discipline required for long-term wealth building. As their parents and grandparents age, Gen Z may increasingly face the financial and emotional burden of caregiving. With rising healthcare costs and longer lifespans, many elderly relatives require assistance that traditional insurance or pensions may not cover. This responsibility can divert significant portions of Gen Z's income and time, delaying their own financial progress and retirement savings. The sandwich generation dilemma, where individuals care for both children and aging parents, is a growing reality, impacting their ability to save. The fundamental shift from defined benefit pensions to defined contribution 401(k) marks a pivotal change. Pensions offered a guaranteed income stream, mitigating market risk for retirees. 401(k)s, however, expose individuals to market volatility and require active management and investment expertise. This places the onus entirely on Gen Z to navigate complex financial markets and make astute investment choices, often without adequate training or resources. The security once provided by employers is now a personal responsibility, with all its inherent risks. For older generations, significant debt often came later in life, primarily in the form of a mortgage, an asset-backed loan that built equity. Gen Z, conversely, often carries substantial student loan debt from the outset, which is non-dischargeable in bankruptcy and offers no tangible asset. This key difference means Gen Z's early debt is purely a liability, not an investment, hindering their ability to leverage debt strategically for wealth creation. It diverts cash flow from equity-building avenues like down payments. Gen Z is often associated with valuing experiences over material possessions. While laudable, this can inadvertently lead to significant spending on travel, concerts, and dining out. These experiences, while enriching, do not build wealth or provide long-term financial security. Economists note that discretionary spending on experiences, if not balanced with robust savings, can severely limit the capital available for investments and retirement planning. It's a trade-off many young people make, often without fully understanding the long-term financial implications. The concept of lifelong employment with a single company, once a common path to retirement, is largely obsolete for Gen Z. The modern labor market is characterized by frequent job changes, contract work, and the increasing threat of automation. This instability means less consistent income, fewer opportunities for long-term career progression within one organization, and often, gaps in benefits like retirement contributions. The lack of traditional job security necessitates greater personal financial resilience, which is difficult to build under existing pressures. While the tech industry offers high salaries for a segment of Gen Z, it also presents unique risks. The industry is prone to rapid boom and bust cycles, with frequent layoffs and intense competition. Relying heavily on one sector, even a high-paying one, can be precarious. Furthermore, the allure of tech often means young people migrate to expensive urban centers, where high incomes are often offset by exorbitant living costs, eroding their ability to save significantly. The perception of universal tech wealth is often misleading for the majority. Beyond homeownership, other real estate investment opportunities that built wealth for previous generations are largely inaccessible to Gen Z. Commercial real estate, rental properties, and land speculation often require substantial upfront capital or access to credit that young adults lack. This means a significant avenue for passive income and asset appreciation remains closed off, forcing them into more volatile or less secure investment options. The traditional path to diversified wealth building through real estate is increasingly barricaded. While Gen Z shows interest in investing, particularly in individual stocks or cryptocurrency, there's a disconnect from traditional, long-term equity market strategies. The allure of quick gains can lead to speculative investments rather than diversified portfolios built for compound growth. This approach, while exciting, often exposes them to higher risks and can result in significant losses, hindering consistent wealth accumulation. Financial advisors caution against relying solely on volatile assets for retirement, emphasizing stable, diversified long-term strategies. The shrinking of the middle class directly impacts Gen Z's prospects for retirement. A robust middle class traditionally provided upward mobility and a path to financial stability. However, economic data points to a continued hollowing out of this demographic, meaning fewer jobs offer middle-income wages and benefits. This forces more young people into lower-wage jobs with limited growth potential, making it significantly harder to accumulate the necessary wealth for a comfortable retirement. The economic ladder has fewer stable rungs. For many previous generations, a significant portion of retirement security came from inherited wealth or assistance. This could include down payments for homes, contributions to education, or direct inheritances. Gen Z, however, faces a different landscape. Not only are many parents themselves struggling, but rising costs and longer lifespans mean any inherited wealth will likely come later in life, potentially too late to significantly impact early career wealth building. The traditional support structure is fraying, leaving Gen Z more isolated in their financial journey. Gen Z faces unprecedented costs in establishing independent lives. Rent, utility bills, transportation, and food all demand a larger percentage of their income compared to previous generations. This foundational expenditure leaves little room for discretionary savings. Many opt to live with roommates or delay moving out of their parental homes longer, but even then, the cost of living independently remains a formidable barrier to financial accumulation. It's a constant struggle to balance immediate needs with long-term aspirations. In response to financial challenges, many Gen Z individuals utilize automated savings apps and micro-investing platforms. While these tools encourage good habits, they often only address superficial savings needs. Micro-investing, while accessible, may not generate substantial returns quickly enough to offset the larger structural economic issues Gen Z faces. They can be a positive step, but without addressing the underlying wage stagnation, debt burden, and cost of living, these tools serve more as a band-aid than a comprehensive solution for retirement security. As life expectancies continue to rise, Gen Z faces an increased longevity risk, the danger of outliving their retirement savings. While a longer life is desirable, it requires a significantly larger nest egg to sustain those additional years. This means they need to save more than previous generations, but, as we've explored, their capacity to do so is severely constrained. The calculation for adequate retirement savings is growing, while the means to achieve it are shrinking for many. Should Gen Z choose to raise families, they will contend with unprecedented childcare costs, educational expenses, and other family-related expenditures. Data consistently shows the cost of raising a child to adulthood has soared, placing immense pressure on household budgets. This often necessitates delaying retirement contributions or drawing down savings, further jeopardizing their long-term financial security. The dream of a family often comes with a significant financial trade-off that compounds the challenges to retirement. Research shows that inherited wealth plays a substantial role in cementing financial security for many. For those in older generations, inheritances often provided a boost to retirement funds or helped pay off a mortgage. However, with increasing life expectancies and the current economic climate, Gen Z is less likely to receive significant inheritances early enough to materially impact their wealth accumulation. If they do receive one, it may be later in life when their own financial needs are already pressing, making its impact on retiring rich minimal. The trend towards austerity policies and cuts to public services further impacts Gen Z. Reduced funding for education, healthcare, and social welfare programs means individuals must bear more of these costs themselves. This increases the overall financial burden on young adults, as they receive fewer direct or indirect benefits that previous generations might have enjoyed. These cuts effectively shift more financial responsibility onto the individual, making the path to retirement without significant personal wealth far steeper. Years of economic pressure can foster a scarcity mindset among Gen Z. This psychological state, characterized by a constant feeling of not having enough, can lead to short-term decision-making, difficulty planning for the future, and even avoidance of financial planning altogether. When daily survival is the primary focus, long-term goals like retirement become secondary. This mindset, while rational in a high-pressure environment, paradoxically hinders the very actions needed to escape the cycle of scarcity. The decline of union membership, particularly in industries where Gen Z is concentrated, means fewer workers benefit from collective bargaining power. Unions historically fought for better wages, benefits, and retirement packages. Without this advocacy, individual workers are often at a disadvantage when negotiating terms of employment, leading to lower wages and less comprehensive benefits. This systemic weakening of worker power contributes to the broader trend of stagnant wages and reduced retirement security for the younger generation. For many in Gen Z, a side hustle isn't a choice for extra income, it's a necessity to cover basic expenses. This constant pursuit of multiple income streams can lead to burnout, reduced time for self-improvement or leisure, and inconsistent retirement contributions. While touted as entrepreneurial, the prevalence of side hustles often signifies that primary incomes are insufficient, underscoring the severe financial strain young people endure, leaving little mental or financial bandwidth for robust retirement planning. Compared to older generations, Gen Z often reports different financial priorities. While immediate needs like housing and debt repayment are paramount, longer-term goals like retirement might take a backseat to experiences, education, or even entrepreneurial ventures. This isn't necessarily a flaw, but a reflection of their economic reality. However, deferring retirement planning, even for valid reasons, means missing out on crucial years of compound interest and investment growth, making the ultimate goal of retiring rich significantly harder. The ongoing march of automation poses a unique threat to Gen Z's career longevity and earning potential. While some jobs will be created, many routine tasks across various industries are susceptible to automation, potentially displacing workers or suppressing wages. This future uncertainty makes long-term career planning difficult and adds another layer of instability to their financial prospects. Building a rich retirement requires consistent, high-earning potential, which automation could jeopardize for a significant portion of the workforce. Gen Z enters a truly globalized job market, where they compete not just with local talent, but with skilled individuals worldwide. This global competition can drive down wages in certain sectors and increases the pressure to acquire highly specialized skills. While it opens up some opportunities, it also means a constant need for upskilling and adapting, often without the job security or benefits that accompany more insulated domestic markets. This relentless competitive pressure can impact career progression and earning stability. The erosion of traditional safety nets, both governmental and corporate, leaves Gen Z highly exposed to financial shocks. Pensions are gone, Social Security is uncertain, and employer-provided healthcare and retirement benefits are often less comprehensive than in the past. This means that individual resilience and robust personal savings are more critical than ever, yet these are precisely what Gen Z finds most difficult to accumulate. The consequences of any misstep or misfortune are amplified in this less forgiving economic environment. While digital natives, Gen Z also bears the cost of this digital lifestyle. Constant upgrades to technology, subscription services, and high-speed internet are often considered necessities, not luxuries. These seemingly small, recurring expenses can collectively drain budgets, leaving less for savings. For a generation immersed in the digital world, the pressure to keep up with technological advancements and maintain a connected lifestyle creates a pervasive, underlying financial draw that older generations did not experience to the same extent. Beyond the financial drain, the psychological weight of overwhelming debt significantly impacts Gen Z's overall well-being and decision-making. Studies indicate that high debt levels are linked to increased anxiety, depression, and a reduced sense of future optimism. This emotional burden can hinder career progression, impair productivity, and make individuals less likely to engage in proactive financial planning, perpetuating a cycle of financial struggle. The invisible cost of debt is profound and far-reaching. Work benefits for Gen Z are evolving, often away from traditional, robust packages. Many employers, particularly in the gig economy or smaller companies, offer fewer benefits like comprehensive health insurance, paid time off, or retirement matching. When benefits are offered, they may be less generous or require higher employee contributions. This shift means Gen Z must often self-fund aspects of their well-being and retirement that were once employer-provided, adding another layer of financial pressure and reducing their net income. A fundamental hurdle for Gen Z in building wealth is simply a lack of available capital to invest. After covering inflated living costs and servicing debt, many have little disposable income left. Without significant capital, even savvy investment strategies yield modest returns. The principle of "it takes money to make money" is particularly challenging for this generation, as their starting capital is often minimal, limiting their ability to leverage early investment opportunities for substantial long-term growth. Gen Z has experienced a persistent inflationary spiral that affects every aspect of their financial lives. From rent increases to grocery bills, the cost of goods and services continues to climb, often at a faster rate than their wages. This means that any savings they do accumulate rapidly lose purchasing power, making it incredibly difficult to build a nest egg that will be sufficient for retirement. It's a treadmill effect where they have to run faster just to stay in the same place financially. The stark difference in homeownership rates between generations highlights a key divergence in wealth accumulation. By age 30, baby boomers and Gen X often had established home equity. For Gen Z, homeownership is significantly delayed, with fewer young adults entering the housing market at similar ages. This means missing out on decades of potential property appreciation, a cornerstone of middle-class wealth. This gap in home equity compounds over time, making it harder for Gen Z to catch up to the financial standing of previous generations. Gen Z often bears the burden of existing economic and social systems that were not designed with their unique challenges in mind. From the student loan system to the retirement framework, these structures often fail to address the realities of stagnant wages, skyrocketing costs, and precarious employment. They are inheriting systems that are, in many ways, failing them, making individual efforts to retire rich an increasingly difficult uphill battle against systemic forces. While Gen Z is entrepreneurial, the financial constraints limit their ability to launch and scale businesses effectively. The capital required, coupled with the need for immediate income, often forces them into side hustles rather than substantial ventures. This means less capacity for wealth creation through business ownership, a traditional path to significant riches for many. The very conditions that push them to entrepreneurship also hinder its full potential, creating a paradox of ambition constrained by reality. The long-term solvency of Social Security remains a critical variable for Gen Z's retirement. While the system is projected to cover a significant portion of future benefits, the possibility of reduced payouts or delayed eligibility hangs over their planning. This uncertainty means Gen Z must plan for a future where Social Security is a less reliable safety net, intensifying the need for substantial personal savings, which, as we've demonstrated, is already a formidable challenge for this generation. Many Gen Z individuals perceive the current economic landscape as inherently unjust, inheriting a system that disproportionately favors older generations who benefited from different economic realities. This perception, whether fully validated or not, can breed cynicism and a reluctance to engage with traditional financial planning. When the odds feel stacked against you, the motivation to save diligently for a distant, uncertain retirement can wane, impacting behavioral economics around long-term wealth building. Gen Z also grapples with the weight of societal expectations of a comfortable retirement, often based on the experiences of their parents and grandparents. This disconnect between expectation and reality can lead to increased stress and disappointment. While previous generations saw retirement as a well-deserved reward, for Gen Z, it may become another source of anxiety, as the path to achieving it looks increasingly arduous, potentially leading to a redefinition of what a good life means in their later years. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence and automation isn't just a future concept, it's actively reshaping the job market Gen Z is entering. From customer service to creative roles, AI has the potential to automate tasks, reduce the need for human labor, or significantly alter job descriptions. This constant technological disruption means Gen Z faces unprecedented career uncertainty, making it difficult to build consistent income streams essential for robust retirement savings. The future of work is volatile, and Gen Z is on the front lines. Government policy plays a crucial, yet often overlooked, role in shaping Gen Z's financial destiny. Policies regarding student loan forgiveness, affordable housing initiatives, minimum wage increases, and social safety nets all directly impact their ability to save and build wealth. Without significant policy interventions that address the systemic challenges they face, individual efforts to retire rich will remain an uphill battle. The political will to enact such changes remains a significant unknown. For generations, a stable career provided a predictable path to retirement, with consistent income and benefits. The gig economy, however, presents a contrasting reality for many in Gen Z. While offering flexibility, it often lacks the stability, benefits, and long-term career progression of traditional employment. This trade-off significantly complicates retirement planning, as irregular income makes consistent saving difficult, and the absence of employer-sponsored plans places the entire burden on the individual. Data suggests a consistent increase in the average retirement age across developed nations. For Gen Z, this trend is likely to continue, pushing their working lives well into their late 60s or even 70s. This isn't just about personal choice, but a reflection of economic necessity. Insufficient savings and longer life expectancies leave little alternative. The retirement they eventually achieve may look very different, characterized by continued work rather than full leisure, a stark contrast to the idealized golden years of past generations. The evidence paints a challenging picture for Gen Z's retirement prospects. From crippling student debt and soaring living costs to the precariousness of the gig economy and the erosion of traditional safety nets, the converging forces create a formidable barrier to building significant wealth. While individual resilience and strategic planning remain crucial, it's clear that systemic issues are heavily stacked against them. For many, retiring rich in the traditional sense may become an elusive ideal, replaced by a redefined future of work, financial adaptability, and potentially, extended working lives. So, what path remains for Gen Z? Experts suggest adaptability will be key. This includes embracing continuous learning to remain competitive in a rapidly changing job market, cultivating financial literacy early, and potentially advocating for policy changes that address systemic economic inequities. While the traditional blueprint for retirement may be obsolete, a future of financial security for Gen Z will likely require innovative approaches, collective action, and a fundamental reevaluation of societal expectations regarding wealth and retirement. Perhaps the definition of rich itself will need to evolve for Gen Z. Instead of substantial accumulated wealth and full leisure, rich might mean financial independence through diverse income streams, a purposeful working life, or robust health that allows for active engagement in later years. The dream of traditional wealth accumulation faces unprecedented obstacles. Our investigation concludes that while the path to retiring rich in the conventional sense is arduous, the drive for a secure and fulfilling later life will persist, albeit through radically different means. Our deep dive has revealed a complex interplay of economic, social, and psychological factors shaping Gen Z's financial future. What are your thoughts on these challenges? Do you see alternative paths or solutions for this generation to achieve financial stability and a comfortable retirement? Share your insights and experiences in the comments below. Your perspective contributes to a vital conversation about the future of work, wealth, and retirement for all. Thank you for joining this investigative journey. If you found this analysis insightful and value evidence-based journalism, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and hitting the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue delving into critical topics like this, providing in-depth, unbiased reporting on the economic forces shaping our world. Stay informed, stay critical, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.